Welcome to Start Lines and Swag Bags, presented by the Flying Pig Project. The use of this podcast is for entertainment purposes only and should not be considered as running or health advice. This podcast is not intended to replace any professional medical advice. Thank you for your support.
Hello and welcome to this week's episode of Start Lines and Swag Bags. I will be honest with you listeners, I hope this is not the first episode you've ever tuned in for because it was a week and I am tired. But I'm so thankful I was able to snag this little interview that I have in a few minutes that I really wanted to jump on and get it done. So come along with me for the ride. If you're thinking, my goodness, Rachel, you look exhausted, that is how I feel. Let's start as we always do. Oh, I'm sorry, wait. One thing first. If you took my advice last week and you made a bet with somebody, this is take 8, I think. It has not been going well. All right. Chris was a fun interview. He was the second one that I did in my living room, and it was probably 6 or 7 weeks ago. And I haven't done one here since, and that is not a hint for anybody who is on the list to be recorded. But I will say there is something different about doing the episode in person because you're laughing, they're laughing. It's just a different environment. But that being said, he also remembers me from Extra Mile Running and the old location, but he brought up something that I do miss, and that is Manny's Tacos. It's right next door to the old location. I am fairly certain they are still there because we used to go there a lot. When I would close, I would always run next door and, grab a burrito or a taco bowl. And oh my God, the food was so good. Don't get me wrong. I mean, now the store is next to a sushi place, but there's just something about going in and just being able to snag one taco that was very satisfying. Okay, that swag that Chris brought, that shirt was so bad. Now, yes, it was a men's shirt that had that very unplaced seam, or as I call it, the unseemingly seam. And I don't know if the women's had it or not, but if I'm paying that kind of money for a major marathon, someone's got to get the shirt right. The color was awful. Now, if you like it, I don't mean to offend because we're all allowed our opinions, but I have to say, I did not like it. Okay, so let's switch gears. We had the Shamrock Shuffle going up against Indy Monumental. Now, those were both really, really good stories. And I will tell you that finding all of my team members from both teams at Buckingham Fountain and running the streets of Chicago it's such a memory for me. Maybe I'll do the Shamrock again. I really don't know. I am tremendously glad I did it the first time. But to help me tell you who is moving on, and I think everybody knew which one was going to move on in the bracket, I welcome my very, very dear friend, Chelsea. Hey, so Chelsea, you're on here because last week I talked about comparing the Shamrock Shuffle to the Indy Monumental that you and I went to. And I described the race. I talked about how the car ride was amazing, that the office quotes were flying left and right, and the singing and the PR and all that. But what do you remember most from that race?
I remember driving home sitting on ice packs I bought from Wendy's immediately after finishing the marathon. That's the first thing that comes to mind. That I drove home immediately after running my PR marathon and I stopped at Wendy's and got a cheeseburger and then asked them for ice so I could sit on them while I was driving us home. That's the first thing.
I totally forgot about that. Legit. Yeah, because so
It
Chelsea
helped. The
drove.
ice helped.
She drove, but she also drove back like right after the marathon. And she's right. We stopped
Sure
at a
did.
Wendy's.
Checkouts at 11, babe. And I was like, "Do you have like like a bag, like any sort of bag? I know you have ice, but like a bag of some sort."
And
And
if I
they teamwork. They worked together and they got me. And I sat at it. I sat on like while I was driving this car, and I sat underneath both hamstrings. I had it on my hip, and then I maneuvered it four
do you know
places the whole
do you know what
time.
else I remember? I remember occasionally while you were driving, I had to adjust the positioning of the ice packs while you were driving.
Probably accurate, I would imagine. Yeah, that makes sense.
What else would you like to share about that weekend?
Um, so it's a lot of pressure to decide to do a second marathon after you bonk your A race. And at that last year, it was only 3 weeks after the original race. My A race was Chicago. I had planned for some amazing time, and while I did run sub 4 hours, I was absolutely miserable. My finish line pictures are like me sobbing, like melting clown pictures, and I went home that night and interestingly enough, drove to our camper and was telling my husband in the middle of the night when we were both awake randomly at like 3 in the morning about how I regretted how awfully I finished, and the next day immediately signed up for this race like 3 weeks later. So you're now not you're not officially like recovering from a marathon. You're like still kind of training, and that's a whole different thing. And you're going into another race 3 weeks later thinking, I can do this, and it's totally going to meet my expectations without any previously having done this experience. And the moment, I reached out to Grace, our mutual friend, and she said, Rachel's looking for a roommate. These hotel rooms for us non-expensive milers are very expensive. So we were like, oh, I don't have a million travel miles to get a free room. It's $400. Oh, that's really expensive. Oh, no shit. So we're going to split it for one night, and it's more reasonable. And um, so hands down, you know, no, no question, signed up. And then, leading into it, it was, something that you're just like, okay, I'm just go for it. My opinion was I chalked up Chicago to a shitty long run because I basically started cramping up at 18, 19. I was like, this sucks. And then I like hobbled to the finish line.
No, but Indy, I have the recording. You finished so strong, arms up, tears, crying, the whole thing.
Yeah. And the cool thing about Indy is that in Chicago you cannot be at the finish line. In Indy, my daughter and you were able to be at the finish line, see me finish, see me achieve my goal. That's something special. And there is no comparison to immediately seeing your family afterwards. Finishing Chicago with crotch like cramps that I couldn't move my legs. That's awful. The comparison of those two races for me is there's such a stark difference. That Indy, where I finished feeling strong and was able to, like, you know, I fueled properly. I had, given myself proper hydration prior to. My daughter was there to see me. Like all these things. It was a very unique experience, I have to say.
Well, I want to tell you that comparing our time in Indy and the reasons and everything else, comparing that whole package to Shamrock, I got to tell you, in the end, I mean, I love doing the Shamrock. There was no comparison. Indy is easily moving forward to the next round. And I talked about this in the show as well. And I don't know if you still know that I have this, but this has been on my fridge for 1 year. And this is your finish time,
Oh,
the printout.
I didn't. You stole my finish time printout from me, and now you're showing it to me.
And I have kept this on my fridge for 1 year
Oh,
as
that's
my
awesome.
as my memory of that weekend. Actually, it wasn't even a
Yeah, I
weekend. It
mean,
was like 36 hours.
I think that's a special thing about anyone's races, right? Is that you have this combination of things, regardless of your training, regardless of the people that you trained with. There's a magic that happens with the people who are there with you at any race, and it's very cool that that inspired you, because you got to witness someone who was determined to make something happen, and I appreciate that you're inspired by that. And it reminds me that no matter what I'm feeling week to week, that my efforts are impactful to other people. And I always say this about our team and our groups, that we get to show that no matter what you're working on, you're impactful to someone else. Their goal, be it bigger or smaller than yours from a distance or a time perspective, is potentially impacted by your efforts. So that's
Yes.
awesome.
Yes. Well, thank you. Thank you so much for taking a few minutes hiding from your family in the car.
It's so high.
Um, she
They
is
don't
not
know.
driving.
No, I am not driving. My car is in a garage that is cleaned out enough to fit my car in it, which is another podcast's worth of talking.
Well, good, because you know what? You're coming back for a full episode. So there you go. Indy moves on. I don't think anybody's really going to be surprised by that. It was such an amazing event, and Chelsea put it so eloquently how it is different to have your family at the finish line and how you really never know who you are inspiring with what you do. And the fact that she took the time out to sit in her garage in her car with a beer and swear on my show, that that's a friend. All right, let's move on. We are into a brand new duel. I think I may have done this on purpose because this is the duel of trail races. So we have the Viking Dash versus the USOL 4 Mile Classic. Let's talk about USOL. Now they're known for trail races, they do trail challenges. They also do something called a 4 Mile Classic. The 4 Mile Classic, it's not a trail race to the best of my knowledge normally, but it has always been held at, I want to say, Montrose Beach. Now, if you've been paying attention, you know Rachel doesn't go into the city to run. So it was never a race that was ever on my radar. But in 2021, they moved it to Harms Woods just for 1 year. Now, Harms Wood is in Skokie, and I will admit, I spent a fair amount of my misguided youth in Harms Woods. So I was all in for it. It was the year that I ultimately did in 2021 25 live races, which was not easy in 2021. Well, it's not easy, period. But this one it jumped out at me. I said, okay, I'm gonna go do Harms Woods, USOL, never done one before. So glad I did that race. There is something about a USOL race that is just so good for your soul. Funny, USOL. I didn't mean to do that. So the ride, we talk about things that I use to evaluate races. The ride, whatever, from where I am to Skokie, it's always horrible. But parking was not a problem. Everyone was so laid back. And keep in mind, this is 2021. We were just about, I think, at the 1 year mark or a little later of the COVID thing. And, you know, you weren't necessarily hanging around in crowds really at that point. But I just remember everybody was so laid back. There were groups of people that were clearly either part of like the USOL weekly run thing that they do, or I remember specifically Evanston Running Club was there. And I remember thinking, Evanston has a running club? Right, because that's what my thinking was back then. So it was a beautiful day. It was a little chilly. The pictures were fantastic. And I had this gentleman who was running next to me. I think I was really on pavement. I don't think Harm's Woods, as I remember it, was woodsy. And I don't think it was woodsy because I did it at a 10:20 pace. I did it in 42 minutes, which for me was fantastic. I would do that on a regular road race. So that's why I'm thinking it wasn't too traily. The gentleman next to me was running on this little grass path. And I didn't understand why. Well, I understand now. It was much softer and it was probably easier on the whole body. And that's for anybody, not just him. Maybe I should have done that day. But you finish, and again, the atmosphere is so relaxing. I have pictures of myself laying down on the grass in Harm's Woods. Ooh, I remember that. And just looking around and seeing people talking and seeing people being happy. And it was just such a good atmosphere. They gave away beer. They gave away their, winners, the age group winners and whatever. And it was just an overall relaxing, peaceful day. Now I'm going to actually, though, throw their other two races into the mix and make this like a triple going against the Viking Dash. It's a triple. I'm going to throw in the October Trail Challenge and the December Trail Challenge that I also did. And I think those were in 2023. You'd think I would have checked that before I started filming, right? No. The reason I bring those up is because there are certain races that after you do them, you establish a certain amount of badass points in your bank. For instance, I've done a couple Ragnars. Major badass points. Did you sleep on the floor in the high school? Badass points. Did you use the bathroom at the last exchange? Massive points. The first time I did USOL, the Trail Challenge, and I don't know if it was Palos Heights or Des Plaines. That's embarrassing. Anyway, that was trail. And while I was popping along, I met up with a teammate there. We were running along, and out of the blue, here's this tree root that totally takes me out, and I go down. I found a picture recently post-fall, and my knee was so many pretty colors. Thank goodness. I did not really hurt myself. I was stunned in the moment, and I did finish the race. She helped me finish. I think I fell at like mile 1.5. And I think the race was like 4.2. So, again, perseverance, got it done. Okay, that's some badass points right there. And again, calm, beautiful, with friends, relaxing. You got it. Then there was the one I did after that, which was a mud run / trail run. Now, I remember this one for many reasons. It was actually at the same location as the October one. And there was this tree that was down in the middle of the race, but you had to kind of go uphill to get over it because it was an out and back. You went over it. You went out. If I remember this correctly, the underpass was flooded because everything was muddy. It was because I was wondering, how are people running a 7-minute pace in this mud when I can't function. So I do the out and back, and I remember climbing over. You got to go a little up a hill, and you climb over this huge tree that's fallen in the middle. And unfortunately, on the other side were the only thing you could grab were these prickly bushes. And I did. And I got stuck. I could not free myself. And I was running alone. There was nobody. When I mean alone, I waited a good like 2 minutes. I added 2 minutes to my overall time, waiting for somebody to come along and help me get over this log. And thankfully, the people that did come up behind me would mean that they were slower than me and they were just out enjoying a race. So they stopped to help me get over this big tree. But they were friendly, they were nice. We had chili afterwards. Oh my God, the chili. Let's talk about the chili. And my legs up to my knees were covered in mud. And I said to the teammates that were there, I think this earns me badass points. Absolutely. A trail run in the mud, stuck in prickly bushes. That's it. But again, relaxing, chilly, friends. I mean, if you get the chance to do any USOL race, do the USOL race. Fantastic. But there's still another race we have to talk about. All right, before I jump into the Viking Dash, I actually went real quick and verified. I did 4 USOL races, and apparently they were all in 2021. I'm clearly a little confused about the timing. Things are starting to blend together. I did the April Trail Challenge, the May 4-Mile Classic, the October Trail Challenge, and the December Trail Challenge. So that makes sense that I would have been at the same place at least twice with that big log that I had to climb over. Fun fact, at the 4-Mile Classic, I was actually 4 out of 8 in my age group, which got me nothing. Okay. And we need to talk about the swag. I totally forgot about swag. All right, so at the USOL races, actually you do get medals if you place. I don't actually think they're medals. I think they were tiles if you place. Now I didn't place, obviously. So this is the 4-Mile Classic shirt. This is a nice shirt. They do really nice shirts. And then this is, I don't remember, I did three trail challenges. I don't think I got t-shirts for all of them, but I do have this one. And I love the back of this one. All right, so that's USOL swag. So now we are going to talk about the Viking Dash. Now I don't know, not only do I not know who got me into this, but according to my roster, I actually did this race a week before I did the USOL December challenge, because this was another of the infamous 25 races in 2021 race. This would have been one of the last ones I did. I did it with a group of fast trackers, and here's what I remember about this race. There's a couple of reasons why this is on the bracket. It's at a place called Veterans Acres in Crystal Lake. And I had never done this course ever. And I don't think anybody told me about it. I don't know if others had done it before in the group I was in. Lots of things I don't remember. So the ride, of course, was not too bad. I do remember, for some reason, I did a couple miles before the race. I don't remember why. I just remember running along whatever road Veterans Acres is on, and it was snowing. It was snowing just a little bit to make it slippery. And then I met up with my friends, and you climb down to the start line. I mean, this is really like Forest Preserve Trail. Okay, you go down, you start, and at some point in the middle of the race, you realize that your path is like a foot wide, and to your right is nothing. And when I mean nothing, I mean like there's a 3 or 4 foot drop. There's something there, but it's enough to make you go, oh, I should slow down. I don't want to fall. It was similar to the USOL Trail, but with like an added element of, ooh, I could really hurt myself. Now, I've said this twice before. I do not like hills at the end of my races. And if there is one, I'd like to know about it. What do you think is at the end of this race? Yeah, a hill. Not only a hill up grass, a hill up slippery grass. And it probably took me as long to get up the hill as it did to run the whole race. And then I remember going up the hill, and you turn and you run like, I don't know, maybe 200 meters or so, and you've crossed the finish line. Now, you are all probably thinking, that is a very lame story about the race. How is this race possibly in the bracket? Well, remember I said races move forward for a bunch of different reasons. We have to talk about the swag from this race. First of all, everybody gets the shirt. And if you're watching the video, no, I don't know why my computer's going on screensaver. Okay. Anyway, this is the shirt. It's a nice shirt. It is. And then, I don't really remember why this was, but we all got this medal, which has a big Viking on it, a big green Viking. And the sash says Viking Dash Trail Run Night Raid. I don't know why we got this, but it's a really nice, cool medal. We also got a big Thor's hammer. And when I tell you, this is heavy. Like, you could whip this at someone and it would hurt. And you've got the Viking Dash Trail Run ribbon. This thing is heavy. But you know what they do? They give you big Thor for your medal. And then they give you a little baby Thor keychain. It's not focusing. There we go. Little baby Thor. And that's not all. Apparently, I don't know how this happened, I came in second in my age group. So I got the mug for my second place in my age group. I would not expect an age group in a trail race any day of the week, much less one where the cliff is right there. So this, again, is an example of you race who shows up. All of these goodies, this is why this race is on the board. Because I have a Thor keychain, which is not in focus. There you go. I have a Thor keychain. Okay. So that's the Viking Dash. So you have USOL and you have the Viking Dash. Which one is going to move ahead? All right. I have an announcement. We are changing it up next week. Next Tuesday, of course, is the election. If you have not done so, please go out and vote. I will in no way, shape, or form tell you anything but that. Please be sure that your voice is heard. We will not be airing an episode on Election Day, Tuesday the 5th. We will be having a special episode dropping Thursday the 7th. It's actually going to be our first couples episode where I am interviewing my editor, Marty, and his wonderful wife, Liz. Until then, I hope you all have a great week. Enjoy the extra hour of sleep tonight. I know I will. Peace out and stay safe. Thank you for listening.